Okay, hi everybody. This is the re-recording of the Saturday tutorial on working on a glass canister. I have 3 of them. This is a different size than the first one that I did. I will grab the first refresh and show where I'm at so far. I still have a little bit of work left to do on the lid, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. So this is the front of the jar, and then this is the lid. I'm going to do some top dots on these large pink dots over here, but it's pretty darn close to finished and I'm really happy with it. So in today's, we are going to go over painting the glass, setting up a stencil, and getting another one started. So the first thing I did is I grabbed a piece of paper, or you can use cardstock, and you wrap it around the jar and you decide how large you want this to be. So I marked it off that I didn't want it to come up past kind of where the bamboo lid came into place. That's where I wanted to center it. That's how I did on this one as well. I did end up adding a little bit more than I had originally planned, and that's okay. You can fill in space after, right? So you start here and you mark that space, and then you cut your piece down to size. And then when you have your piece, the first thing you want to do is kind of in the center. It doesn't really matter. You want to pick a spot to draw a vertical line, and then approximately halfway down you want to, so I've got just under 9 centimeters, so around 4.5. I'm going to put a mark there, and I'm going to draw this line across to intersect. I find that when I'm painting on glass, if I don't have a piece of paper in the jar with me, my depth perception is all super screwy. So this not only is going to help you have some guidelines on a surface that you just to really be able to see what it is that you're doing. So then I grab my compass, and what I typically do is I start with my compass in the center, wipe away the flakes of paint that fall off, and I move my compass out to as far to the edge as I want to go. And that's going to give me my largest circle for this particular set of spacing. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. These are just guidelines that we're going to go through. And I'm just going to start making some circles all the way down into the center. Now, if you're working on canvas or wood panels or anything, spinning can work. Not great with a piece of paper. Always better if you have a Lazy Susan. For me, at least, that's what I tend to like to do when I have a piece like that. But again, this is just rough guidelines. This isn't anything that we're going to live and die by here. It's just to help us kind of keep an eye on our spacing. I do always like to get nice and close for the center circle though. Get a nice small circle there when I can. And the reason for that is it really helps me when I'm placing my center dot on the piece of glass. So now I also forgot I need some tape. So I will be back in 2 seconds with my tape. Hey, baby, you're okay, good girl. Just chatting to Audrey on my way through. All right, so I've got my tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid off of my jar, and I'm going to put this piece of paper inside the jar. Now, the next thing here that you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure that you get it very flat. Now, because I don't really care where this design is, because I don't have to worry about centering or anything. I just plop it in there, and I don't mind where I paint on this particular surface. So wherever I can stick a piece of tape down, that's where I start. Oh, except I lifted it up. So that's the other thing, is make sure that before you put your piece of tape down, your piece of paper is lined up down to the bottom so that it's not starting to lift on you. And then I put my hand in and I just start to slowly smooth around and see that my page is nice and tight. Well, and I should get a piece of tape first though, actually. So we'll get a piece of tape first. This is an awkward part, for me anyway, because I'm absolutely useless with my left hand. So I'm just going to come in here and hope for the best, do the best that I can, hold that there. And there we go. So now I'm pretty happy with this set of guidelines. It's a little bit tilted, so let's see if I can correct that a little bit. Let's see if that helps. Much better. Okay, and now we're ready to paint. So for this one, I am going to use 3 different colors of purple. I'm going to use green and I'm going to use gold. So I'm just going to get my little paint pots out because I haven't pre-mixed my paint for this. And then we will be ready to get started. Ready, Audrey? All right, and I apologize. I need to blow my nose. So I'm going to step away for a second so I don't make you go deaf with my blowing. So sorry. If I knew a way to pause the recording on Zoom, I would do it. All right, so let's first start. I'm wondering if I should have a little white in there too. Maybe I'll use the off-white. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so I've got my lightest purple, which is light lavender folk art multi-surface. Excuse me. I have lavender, also folk art multi-surface. There we go. Stick that aside. And then my final one is violet pansy for the purples. You're going to see a theme here. I'm also going to use folk art. It's called parchment. It's kind of an off-white. I don't have the jar out. There's the dark purple. So there's our 3 purples together. And I'm going to use this. It's a folk art again. It's called parchment. It's kind of an off-white. So compared to the white, oh, that white is in an old blue container. But here, let's see. So see that slight difference there. So I'm going to go with that off-white. And I'm going to go with my, oops, this is Martha Stewart multi-surface pearl in enchanted green. Again, I know we can't get those anymore, but that is what I'm going to use for this one. And I don't need that little paint pot. And then the final one, just checking to see if I already have a container of it, and I don't, is I'm going to use 14 karat gold multi-surface again for folk art. And we're going to use that with the purples and the greens. And there we go, our nice gold. So that is our color palette. Now I'm going to start with the gold. Whoops. And I'm going to pick my center dot color. Now I'm going to zoom in here as best as I can. And we're going to go with a size 21 in the DIY Mandala Stones tools. This gold paint is a little stringy. Let's see how I can, I'm trying to see if I can turn this so you can see a little bit better without my hand in the way, and I don't think I can. Let's zoom back out. So pretty good. Try and add a bit more paint there. Now this paint is a little bit more watery than some of the others. So I am going to add a bit more, but I'm not going to add too much. And then I'm just going to use one of my nail dotting stylus tools to kind of move the paint around a little bit so that it's not kind of all clumped in the middle. You can kind of create this little striation as well, which is kind of cool looking. So there we go. And I'm going to sneeze again. I apologize. Excuse me. All right. Set that down for a second. And I'm going to grab my, do I want the off-white or do I want the actual white? I want the off-white. Okay. So I've got my art off-white, which is, sorry, parchment. And I'm going to go in with my micro dotter tool. Now I'm going to try and move you over here a little bit. Hopefully we still have decent enough lighting here so that I can kind of dot around my phone, which is my camera. Now it's really hard to see something like this on here because it is white and it's on a white background. So there is always the option as well to do the same kind of paper for the guidelines and do it with a black piece of paper. Okay, so my center dot is slightly off, so I'm going to move it down here just a little bit just to kind of keep everything nice and centered. And you can always move your piece of paper too, right? If you find that you've dotted in a location that you didn't really feel like you should have, or it's not lining up properly, you can always adjust and move your paper around. So yeah, so if you're planning on painting with a lot of light colors, you might really want to put a dark piece of paper in there. Now you go with a dark piece of paper and oops, that's not going to work. That's too close together. You go with a dark piece of paper and just even a regular pencil or a charcoal pencil. You'll be able to see that no problem on the dark background. Oops. And let me just grab, I'm going to grab my little piece of my little wood. And the wood can sometimes just be like an eraser on glass and ceramic. So there we go. All right. So the issue is that I went to put a dot in between these two, but there's not going to be enough room to put another dot on either side. So I'm actually going to go and put 2 dots in between here. The spacing for this just takes practice. So I'm doing this a little slowly. And after a while, I might take this paper out if I find that it's keeping me from being able to really see the design. That's one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of when it comes to guidelines anyway, is that sometimes it can interfere with the design that you're trying to create and keep you from really being able to see what it is that you're making. So after a while, I might pull that piece of paper out for a little bit. Here we go. And we keep going all the way around that center dot to lay down this first row. All right. So there is that first row done. That again was with the micro dotter. You could go in with a really sharp pencil, a really sharp toothpick. You could go slightly larger and make that first row a little larger too. That's fine too. You do what you can with the tools that you have at your disposal and with what you like the look of. That is incredibly important. All right. So I'm gonna go now to the I'm trying not to copy the other jar exactly, so that's why I'm kind of looking at it, like, what way do I want to go? Okay, we're gonna go with the green. So we got the green, and I'm gonna do the second row. Now I am gonna take the tape off now. The paper out for now. I'll probably put it back in again later if I want to check some spacing or add a different element that I'm not doing right now. But for now, I'm going to take that off. I find that's a little easier to see. Now, what I again find is sometimes my depth perception is a little off. So I end up hitting the surface that I'm painting a little too hard. But you'll know pretty quickly where your comfort level is for that. So as we go out from the center, we're going slightly larger with our dots. There's a little bit of space in here. I'm trying to also challenge myself to kind of work with some negative space. And I go every other one because that gives me another frame of reference. If I just go here, I have only the 2 dots from the row before to help me line up. Whereas if I go in here, I have the 2 dots from the row before, and I have the 2 green dots on either side. And this is also a way that you can correct some spacing sometimes, right? If you do this for a couple of rows, and even if this dot here isn't perfectly centered on the 2 white dots from the row before, as long as it's centered in between those 2, it almost corrects spacing issues as you move out from the center, which can be really helpful, especially if you do a lot of eyeballing it like I do. Like, nobody's going to put any kind of measuring tool on my paintings and go in and see perfect symmetry and spacing. That's something I would like to do eventually, but that's not happening right now, and that's okay. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a good day. And thank you, as always, to you wonderful Patreon members for the support and the love and your patience. There's been a lot going on. There's going to be a lot more going on. But we're doing okay. And I hope you're doing okay too. And I'm really grateful that you're here. So thank you. I know that I'm sending you tons of love. All right. Oops, the bottom of the jar. There we go. Doesn't really matter. Nice green circle around there. All right. Now I'm going to go into the purple, and I'm going to start with my darkest and go lightest. So I'm going to go up one side. Actually, I'm going to try with this tool because I don't know how this paint is significantly thicker. So this might give me the size dot I want. Yes, and it is. So I'm staying with the same size tool, and my apologies, it's my straight nail dotting stylus tool. So the one with no ball at the end and no little pointy bit either. This is just a perfectly straight one. So again, a toothpick, your size 1 of your DIY Mandala stones will probably produce a very similar dot to this tool. I'm just going to go around. Oh, I love this purple. It's delicious. Delicious. I'm going to keep going all the way around. I'm going to try and probably correct a couple of these sizes, but I think we're doing all right so far. There we go. All right. When I'm sitting and doing these videos, it's when I get the most nervous because I talk to myself a lot when I'm painting by myself. And I'm always afraid. And I don't always recognize, I'm like, did I say that out loud or did I say that in my head? So I'm always a little nervous of like, what am I going to say out loud, thinking I'm saying it inside my head, and then have it recorded on video? It's a little nerve-wracking sometimes. There we go. All right, so we've got our first row of purple. It's really, really dark looking. I know it looks like black on the camera, but once we get this pieced together a little bit more, you'll start to see the purple coming in. So I'm going now to my medium purple, and then I'm going to my smallest nail dotting stylus tool, the smallest little ball. So I just have to find that tool. Where is it? There it is. Singing helps too. All right. So going in with the smaller one, the smaller nail dotting stylus tool, but still it's going to give me something slightly larger than the row before. So there is space, like I said, in between these dots. If I wanted to go in there and add some detail in between these dots, like a little tiny gold dot or something like that, I totally could. But I think in a jar like this, it's kind of nice to have that space show through and to have some of that negative space. And that's something that I struggle with. I tend to put in a lot of detail and cover an awful lot, and usually more than I intend to in the beginning. I just have a really hard time leaving negative space. So we're going to practice that with these jars. I still have a third jar to do. It's a taller one. I'll be working on that over the next couple of days. I've got a new piggy bank that is a work in progress right now. I've got a couple of mugs that are works in progress that just need, one of them just needs my signature and the label taken off, and one of them needs the handle done, and then they'll be ready to go in the oven. And so hopefully the next time I have something to go in the oven, I'm going to have at least one piggy bank, 2 or 3 jars, and a couple of mugs, which is really gratifying. And then after these canisters, I don't know if I'm going to do the third canister right away. I might, but I'm going to wait and see. I think I want to get a couple more piggy banks done. The one that's a work in progress right now is a purple one. And I have one more purple one to paint, and I also have a pink one to paint. So we will see. We will see how it goes. All right, so now I'm going to go to my third purple. Am I? No, I'm going back to the gold, and I'm going to go to the gold with a size 5 or 6. What size am I going to do? I'm going to actually do I'm going to do a size 7, actually. 7? No, 6. Decisions. This is what it's like to sit and paint with me. Yes, no, no. Okay, yeah, okay, no. It's constant. All right, size 6 DIY Mandala stones tool. And I am going to do every other space. Here we go. And while I'm painting this, I'm trying to decide, am I going to do walking dots around these, or am I going to do some swoops? And I think I'm going to do some walking dots. Sorry to disappoint the swoop fans. Swoops will come. It will come though, I promise. Swoops will come. Will paint all over my hand though, so I gotta wipe that off. And I'm going to start in with the lightest purple. That is the color I'm going to do. And I'm going to use my micro dotter because these are such tiny tiny, tiny center dots. Now there's two ways to make the peak of your petals more pointy. And that is to either increase the size of your peak dot or to move that peak dot out further from the center dot. So the further this dot is away from that gold dot, the pointier my petal is going to be. And you can play with that. Not every row has to follow the same pattern. I can put this one super close. I can put the next one really far away. Like it doesn't have to be all exactly the same. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to stay in camera. I wasn't doing a great job there. Sorry about that. And there. All right, and I know, again, I know it's hard to see with the glare on the glass, and I apologize for that. So here we go with the walking dots all the way around. Right? Don't panic if they're not all exactly the same. It's totally okay. Sometimes if you decide you want to do all of one side of the petal and then all of the other side of the petal, that can help with muscle memory. So for example, constantly trying to switch where you're placing your tool, placing your hand while you're dotting, changing the way you're holding your tool, just changing the way that you're looking and rotating through sometimes, and just changing the angles all the time. Sometimes that can create some inconsistency. So what I found is that sometimes if I do all of one side, like if I just only did all of this side all the way around and then went back through and did all of this side all the way around, that can help you develop some muscle memory. It's definitely not necessary, but it's a trick that you can try to see if it's something that helps you develop your skill even faster. It is really, really damp and humid here right now, you guys, and I apologize that you might see the occasional bug flying around. That's here in the camper as well. Not really helping the situation. It's the first time ever that I'm excited for summer to be over, because once winter comes, all of these bugs are gonna die, and that's gonna make my life easier for sure. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to be able to take some of these fly strips down. Wouldn't that be nice? So I apologize if you see any bugs. I remember on TikTok once I was posting a video about a mug that I was painting, and a ladybug scuttled through the video, and everyone just lost their minds. Lost their minds. There were people trying to throw, like, just trying to shatter my business, really. And it was a ladybug. And I live on a farm. It's so funny. All right, so there we go. We've got our first row with the light purples done. So now I'm going to go back in actually with the green. Nope, we're going to go in with the cream. All right, so I'm going in with a small nail dotting stylus tool in the ball. It has a little small ball on the end, and I am going to put a dot right in here, in between each of them. That's what I was waiting for. The sigh of relief when I'm really letting myself sink into this. That's when I know I'm starting to relax. And that's a good feeling. Okay, I'm actually going to go now with the same tool, but with the dark purple. And I'm going to add, oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a couple little swoops. Yeah, I'm going to add one here. So this one I am going to go all the way around. Like so. I'm going to clean off my tool very, very regularly because this is very thick paint and it will build up very quickly and have an impact on the shape and the size of my swoops. And it'll impact, whether I get that nice sharp point at the bottom. If I have too much paint, it's not going to give me a nice sharp point at the bottom. And they're not all going to be exactly the same, and that's okay. Be kind to yourself. The design is still going to be beautiful. There we go. All right, and now I'm going to do the other side of the swoops from this side and push the paint up. Yeah, it makes them look a little bit different, but I like the character that it adds. And these swoops are setting me up very nicely with a nice little nest in between them to do another set of petals. This little space in here is a nice little net. All right. Does anybody else out there have to sit with a footstool underneath their table because their legs are so short they don't touch the ground? Or is that just me? There we go. So there we go. Progress. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to now take the green. I'm going to do a couple things here. First and foremost, we are going to do, I'm going to put a little bit more paint on, do a dot at the top of each of these petals, like so. There we go. And I'm going to use I'm going to use another white. No, I'm going to use gold. No, I'm going to use white. And it just got gold paint all over me. My little container that I have my gold paint in, I think I filled it too full and now it's kind of oozing a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go back in with the white and I'm going to do another white dot in here. See, and that's when I just didn't touch down. It's because I thought I was touching the glass and I wasn't. The depth perception really throws me sometimes. A black piece of paper probably would be the solution to that. I'm gonna have to look at that. Figure out where my black paper is. I know I've got a bunch of black paper around somewhere from when I used to draw. I'll have to dig those out. And then the other part of me says, is why dig it out? You've got one more canister to paint. Just chill out. These are fine. So there we go. Making some progress. And now I'm going to go back to the green. I'm going to go to a smaller tool. I'm going to go to my straight nail dotting stylus tool, this one. And I'm going to do 2 dots, one here and one here. And that's going to be the one that is going to nest the center dot for my next set of petals. 2 little ones. Look at those little teeny tiny things. The teeny tinies. And there we go. So I should remind you that this is multi-surface acrylic paint, right? This is stuff that needs to bake. So if you are painting on glass canisters, you can definitely bake them. You're not going to bake the bamboo lid. I know that should go without saying, but I'm just saying it just to be on the safe side. Make sure that if you're going to do any top dots on the glass, the part that you're going to be baking, that you wait a full 24 hours minimum before you add any top dots to give the previous layer time to dry. That also goes with when it comes to when to put it in the oven. Wait at least 24 hours before you put it in the oven. The reason for that is that if you put these paints in the oven before they're completely dry, then you will end up with bubbling, or you dramatically increase the chance that you're going to end up with bubbling. And I can tell you that the bubbling is absolutely devastating when it happens. So just do yourself that favor and give yourself ample time for it to dry. If you live in a humid environment, make sure you leave it longer before you put it in the oven. Maybe 36, 48 hours, right? You just want to make sure that it's as dry as you can possibly have it so that you don't risk having that bubbling, okay? Now, when you're talking about top dots, it's equally important to make sure that the first layer is dry before you add a top dot. Because otherwise what's going to happen is the top, when you add your top dot, it's going to dry on top of the other layer, right? But the paint that is underneath that top dot is going to have a much harder time drying fully because it's now got another layer of paint over it, right? So you want to make sure that if you're doing top dots, that you are incredibly careful to really let your dots dry before you go adding any top dots. especially before baking. Now, if you're going to let your piece air dry for the 21 days, like it's suggested for multi-surface paints, that's what's on my bottles anyway. Let's see. Then that's a different story, right? Because if you're going to let it air dry, you're going to let it air dry. You don't have to worry about it bubbling. The bubbling happens when you put them in the oven. So if I used to think that it was when you mixed your own paint, like your own colors, because that just the stirring and the mixing creates bubbles. But it is definitely, in fact, the fact that they are not completely dry yet by the time you put them in the oven. That causes the bubbling. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Timing, having room to let things sit and cure, even for 2 or 3 days. If you're like me and you live in a camper, you don't have a lot of real estate to let stuff sit and just dry. So just kind of keep that in the back of your minds, okay? All right. So I'm using my lightest purple for this row of walking dots. I did my peak dots, and now I'm going to go in and do my walking dots, and I'm going to try and tilt this so that you can see it without too much of the glare getting in the way. I don't know how successful I will be, but I will do my best, I promise. That's the hard part of, filming stone and canvas and everything is a whole different animal than filming on ceramics and glass, because there's so much more glare when you're filming on a reflective surface, right? And that can sometimes impact your depth perception as well, right? It can impact what you're seeing on your surface. So keep that in mind too. If you find that if you have a light that's giving you a lot of glare and it's keeping you from being able to see your piece properly so that you can move forward with it, the paper inside will definitely help with that, but also turn off some lights. Use some more indirect light, some light behind you. It might be harder to see, but because you're using a reflective surface, it's not like you're, uh-oh, let me sneeze. Oh, that hurt. Oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. Oh, you gotta love when you reach the age when you sneeze and you wrench your back out. Oh no. Oh, oh, that hurts. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, back we go. So yeah, the glare, don't be afraid to turn a light off and create some, if you can move some lamps around. I know that that's not always as easily, that's more easier said than done a lot of the times, but if you have that ability to do that, then don't be afraid to turn some lights off, because we might initially think that turning the light off is going to make it harder for us to see, but if it gets rid of that glare, it can sometimes make it a lot easier, especially again when you're painting on a clear surface like this. You're not painting on black that absorbs the light anyway, and it's almost going to help create a darker background, and then you can really see your paint stand out a little bit in a roundabout way. So if the glare becomes an issue for you, don't be afraid to turn some lights off. Anyone else get their allergies really bad in the fall? I don't get them in the spring, but oh man. Whoo. They are hitting hard this year. Then again, too, this is my first year at the farm, right? Dealing with fall allergies. I still got city girl lungs and systems, I suppose. Sorry, I should have warned you. So sorry. I totally should have warned you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I sound like a walrus when I blow my nose. I was never taught how to do that gently. I was taught just keep blowing and get it all gone. All right, so now I'm going in with my medium purple. And I'm going to move up from my micro dotter. That's what I just used. I'm going to move up to my straight tool. It's just a tiny bit thicker, not a whole heck of a lot. This one is just a little more rounded as opposed to the point on the micro dotter. So I'm going to go and we are going to do, we're going to do some swoops in this blue. And because of that, I'm actually going to switch to the larger tool. Whoop, as I throw it all over the place and throw my stuff all over. All right. So I'm actually going up to this size of a tool. So let me actually, hold on, let me compare this for you. So this was the straight tool. This was the micro dotter. And this is the one I'm going to use. So one of the smallest of the tools that you can get with a ball on the end. So not one of the big ones. So I'm going to start just like I did the other one, only this time, and this time I'm going to go down to the down to the green. Yeah, that looks cool. So you don't have to angle them all the same way each time, right? Well, LJ's coming to visit. One of the cats is coming to visit. I can hear him. Oops. And again, it's okay if they're not all exactly the same. Don't stress about it. Audrey, who's here to see you? Is it LJ? She doesn't care, just for the record. She tolerates LJ, though. She does not like it when Daisy comes to visit. Her and Daisy do not get along. They're both curious about each other. But as soon as you get them near each other, whoo, bitch fest, let me tell you. There we go. Well, that looks cute. I'm liking this one. Hi, what's up, Audrey? This is the majority of the talking that I do. Let's be real. I talk to her far more than I talk to myself. Oh, this glare. And then I'm going to do a row of walking dots around these swoops with the darkest purple. Tie that in. I'm really happy with this so far though. Okay, so I'm going to clean off that tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same purple actually, and I'm going to create that peak at the top here. Right, so that I've got that peak and then I've got a peak. I can put the dark purple just above it. So many different options of the things that you can do, right? And just try stuff. Try and see what you like. Then when it comes to the lid, I'm going to show you, we're not going to do the lid on this one today, but I'm going to show you how to prepare for it and to get a bit of a stencil down. Okay. All right, so there we go. Medium purple is done. Now I'm going to go to my dark purple, and I'm going to use this same tool because, again, I know this dark purple is super thick, so I can manipulate the size of the dots very easily myself. And see how that dot is slightly bigger again than the other purple? I'm just going to go around and do that the whole way around. Where's the Audrey going? Good girl. Audrey has been scratching again very badly. So I'm doing everything I can to try and ease her anxiety while keeping my anxiety and worry about her under control. Which is a test for sure. But the good news is that I'm home with her for the next little bit. So I'm just going to spend a lot of time with her. I don't think I'm playing with her enough. I think she wants to play more than what I'm doing for her. So I'm making a conscious effort to play with her a little bit more. So like after I'm done filming this, I'll sit and I'll play with her for a little bit. Let her just chill out. All right. So I'm not trying to keep that tight, right? I don't need to keep that tight to the other design. And I'm going to go around and do all of that one side first. Because this is a slightly different technique than what I normally use. I usually stick going pretty tight, but I'm trying new things. So I'm going to try and get my muscle memory to engage here and help me create some consistency with this side as I move around. Oops, a little bit more paint as I move my way around. So what colors do you think I should do for the third jar? I was thinking yellows and blues would be pretty. Oops. Oops, a little bit more paint. Make sure again that you're cleaning off your tools very regularly. Whether you're wiping them on a cloth or you're wiping them on your hand like I do, doesn't really matter. There we go. So that's the first half done. Now we're going to go in and do the other half. Oh, I'm really liking this. This is pretty. Okay, so that's done. Now, I'm going to just put the lid on for a second just to see how we're doing. And let's zoom out. That's really cute. Still need something to finish it off. So I'm thinking green walking dots going out. That's what I think I'm going to do to finish it off. Okay, so grab my green. I'm going to grab my small nail dotting stylus tool, the ball one again, not the straight one. So compared to the straight, oops, let's put you here and I'll zoom in there. So I'm going to use this one here. Okay. And we're going to start right in here. I'm going to do 6. So I'm actually going to turn it and do the opposite side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, sorry. Just because then it helps me see how nice and straight here. So I want to keep that going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Spin it. Like so. You don't have to keep spinning it. It's totally up to you. Sometimes once I kind of get it down and I know what I'm looking at and I get into the rhythm of it, I stop turning it. All depends on your comfort level. Sometimes I just mindlessly stop doing it. Get out of here, stupid flies. LJ, one of the other cats, likes to bring me presents and he leaves them underneath my camper where I can't reach them. So unfortunately, when you live with a bunch of dead animals underneath your camper, you get some flies. Again, with the TMI, probably. You probably didn't really need to hear that. But, well, that's me. Given more information than necessary. All right. So there we go. So let's put the lid back on again. Should we look at it next to the pink one just for fun, for funsies? So there's the purple one and there's the pink one. Oh, I think it turned out really, really nice, you guys. Okay, so let's talk about the lids. So what I did was, let me show you. Let me grab, what do I need? I need my paper and I need my scissors. Here's my scissors. Where are my scissors? I tell you, if I had a brain, I'd be dangerous. Oh, they're right in front of me. Excellent. Hi, Audrey. How you doing? All right, so I'm grabbing a piece of paper. So to help you find and get ready for painting on your lid. Now, this is not about guidelines. You can put guidelines on this, just like if you're painting on other wood. I try not to just because it makes me a little bit nervous. So what I did was I took a piece of paper, I turned my lid upside down, and I grabbed my pen. Oops, maybe. There we go. Grab my pen and I just went around and drew myself an outline around that. I'm going to cut it out. Keep going. Let me keep going. I'm very slow at this part. I wish I could hyperspeed this part for you. I'm just gonna have to watch how painfully slow I am at this. Sorry. Fast forward a few seconds if you'd like. Okay, once you've cut it all the way out, keep your scissors handy. Trick the delicate dots Andrea taught me. Fold your circle in half. Fold it in half again. So you have it quartered. Yep. When you open it up, you will have your center. So what I do is I put it back down on the table. I do this because it's always a little bit bigger than your actual lid. So I'm just kind of looking to see, does it look pretty darn close to centered? And if it does, oops, then I can flip it back over. I actually use my watercolor pencil crayon. I know I'm going to paint over it. And then there's my center. And there you go. And you can always draw other guidelines if you want to here, but like I said, on the bamboo especially, it's softer, so I would probably rather just paint on this and kind of eyeball it. So that is going to be the lid. If you want to create the concentric circles like I did on this one, putting putting your stencil back in will give you some guidelines for you to line up those rows and rows and rows of dots. Okay, so keep that stencil handy, and reuse them as often as you can, right? If you're going to paint a whole bunch of them, do it once, and don't reinvent the wheel each time. I hope that this has been helpful, you guys. I will show more of the lids. We're going to do a teapot next Saturday, which is what day? 18 plus 7 is the 25th. So on the 25th, we're going to work on a teapot. And I'm going to talk you through just some mental processes that I go through while I'm trying to make decisions on what I'm going to do. So if you have any questions at all, please don't ever hesitate to ask. And actually here, let's do this too. I'm going to put the white underneath for a second, just so you can see it against a white background. So we can see the design. Here we go. Looks pretty good. I love you guys. Thank you for spending the day with me, and I will look forward to seeing you again next week. Let me know if you have any questions at all. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.